Hi, I'm Vanessa from Ellie Mac. I want to welcome you back to my sewing room. Today is going to be extra special. We are making costumes. We are making one costume, but I'm telling you, this costume works for if you want to be a pirate, if you want to be a witch, or in my daughter's case, if you want to be a steampunk. I know this time of year, we're all busy trying to make the costumes either for our children or make the perfect cosplay costume if you're an adult. And I just love taking everyday patterns and reimagining them for this purpose. Not only is it easier for me to sew and understand how the patterns work, it's also a time saver. One year, my husband wanted to be Doctor Strange, and I used a tissue paper pattern, and I'm telling you, it was a month of sewing, and I don't think we saved a single penny because of the amount of fabric. So this was definitely one where I wanted to keep it a little inexpensive. So I got a 50% off flash jill at Boho's, and I thought for sure it was woven, and it wasn't, but there was this starburst pattern that I knew I needed to have in this costume. So I did incorporate that, but I also dug deep in my stash. So I used 3 inherited fabrics, and I will show you those, as well as I like to buy poplin, like either black or chambray or picnic poplin, because it's inexpensive and I can use it for muslin. So I used that cheaper fabric, and then we splurged on the lace detail as well as these beautiful metal pieces. They're actually like a button, but it's to do the lace up so it gives it a corset feel. I did not do boning in this vest. I'm just going to let you know that this is just a lace up detail, but I'm going to show you what I did for the 3 days, what patterns I used, and then I'm going to show you how it turned out. So because we're doing a high-low, I have my trusty Trendsetter pattern here. For the front, I'm actually cutting it a little shorter in the high-low, and then I'm also cutting it 6 inches shorter. Here I have my fashion roller, and I'm just rounding that edge a little more. Now I need this a little poofy, so here is some white tulle. And the back, I'm cutting it just like normal, but in the front, you can see I'm coming up even higher than I did originally. And then I'm going to be cutting the full length and be gathering it on those short side edges. This is the back right here. And then for the next fabric, I'm going to be cutting it 18 inches long. And then I'm just cutting it the whole width of the fabric. So today we're going to be working on making this pleated skirt. The waist needs to be 24 inches in the front, and this is 48 inches. So even if it's a little bit smaller, I think we're going to be okay. And let's figure this out. So I'm going to put the camera down. So this is what we're doing, or what we're trying to accomplish, is getting these pleats in. The last pleat ends, I measure out 1 inch, and then you're just gonna tuck it in until it meets that other one, right? And then you're gonna bring up the back fabric. And that's what makes your pleats. And then you're just gonna clip it. So I did this across the whole 48 inches, and I did end up with 24 inches wide. So you're just taking the inch, you're folding it over just like before, and you're just going all the way across. And then you're going to be ironing down those pleats. And you know, with this being a knit fabric, you're just going to go the best you can. But as you can see, the starburst pattern, I just love it. It looks like that little scientific vintage look that we're looking for. And then here I'm just top stitching in those pleats, and I'm putting it on my mannequin because I love using my mannequin when I'm sewing, and so I can get a little bit more of a visualization. So here I'm going to be serging together the skirt of my Trendsetter in this tulle, and then I'm going to be gathering just the front because I want the front to be extra gathered to kind of poof out at the hips. And then I'm going to be adding the lace. This is where we splurged. This was $15 of lace, and I think I only had like 3 inches left. And I'm going all the way across. This was another pleated detail. This was really what my daughter wanted, was the pleats. And so we went with it. I definitely could do a long gathered skirt instead, and I would have loved it just as much. So here I'm measuring the front and the back of the waist, and so I can make a waistband. And so both of them are looking, one's 22 and one's 23 inches. And so I did cut a waistband, and she wanted 1 inch elastic that was 3 inches with both of those lengths. And then I just pinned on that waistband. So you just want to make sure your waistband is the same width as your total skirt. And it's going to be able to fit your elastic as well as seam allowance. And at this point I have top stitched in that tulle. And here I'm just going to be adding on that waistband, having it folded over. And just like sewing on any waistband, you're going to leave about 2 inches so you can add in the elastic. But you just want to be making sure you're very careful here and you have it both layers of that waistband as you're sewing it on. And here I'm adding in the elastic, and so it doesn't roll, I'm top stitching it. This was another detail to help make it be a little extra comfortable. And then I serged all those raw edges right here at my serger. And then I put it on my mannequin. You can see how all those little extra details come together, and this was the end of day 1. All right, so today is day 2 of making my daughter's steampunk costume. So I'm going to show you how to take the Be Bold, and we're going to be making that nice white blousey shirt. I reached into my vintage fabric and I found this one, and you can you see the inconsistencies of this, which they'll be working perfect for this because it's a Halloween costume. So I put the weird part on the back because we're gonna have a vest corset that comes over it, so you're not gonna see it. But let me show you how to make this shirt that is so common in so many Halloween costumes. I'm cutting the front at the button cut line, and I'm adding 1 inch to all of these front, back, and arms because I want to over her shoulders, so you can decide if you like it to be an off shoulder top for you. But for my daughter, I just wanted to add that 1 inch. Now this is the front, and I measured down 5 inches, and I'm going to sew that together with a 1 inch seam allowance instead of doing the buttons and iron it flat. Once I added the back panel and I went up the side seams, it was time to add on the sleeves. The sleeves are a little confusing here because it's kind of like a raglan, but it's an off the shoulder top. But once you start sewing it, everything works out together. And here you can see with the shoulders and how it's flat across. Now I'm going to be top stitching this down 1 inch all the way across the top. And then this is going to have that casing for the cord that I have going through it. And so once I get this all top stitched down, I add in the cord. And this pattern works so well whether you want to be a pirate, you can be a witch with this. There's so many options with this design that I think everyone needs to have one of these in their costume box. I know I have a few. So this is what it looks like. And then I also added the picot elastic around the wrist. So now we are on day 3, and this is going to be the funnest day of all. What we're going to be doing today is working on that vest corset. This new vest from Ellie Mac is amazing. There is 16 darts on this pattern, and the lining has these pleats in it. It has this facing. It is amazing. But we're going to have to take away some of those details for the vest in order to make this work for this costume. This is the V-Neck Waistcoat Vest pattern, and it's so amazing with all of its little details. But here I'm taking off 2 inches along the front of this vest, and then I'm just easing into the shoulder seams of this pattern. And I'm making sure that I'm cutting around each one of those darts because I do want this shape, because it's kind of a mock corset like I said, and so you do want to add as much shape to this as you possibly can. So again, I'm just going to be marking all those darts, and you're going to be doing quite a few of these. So it's a very fun way to help you get more comfortable with doing darts. And I just find it the easiest to mark them right here at the cutting table, take them directly to my iron and sew them in before I start cutting the next piece of my pattern. It just helps me stay organized. And then once I'm done cutting, I have all the darts done and I feel like I'm extra accomplished. Once I have the darts in, I want to see how my length is, and as you can see, I have quite a bit to take off of this. Now I wanted it kind of like that princess point in the front, so I did cut it at an angle. Now I'm going to be using this front piece pattern for both my lining as well as the outside fabric, and I'm going to be making sure that I did the exact steps on every piece. So this is going to be 4 pieces that I'm marking the same, doing the exact same darts, as well as cutting it a little shorter and cutting it at that angle. So you're going to be making 4 pieces of the front panel before you move on to the back. So because I'm using lining fabric on the front, the back is where the liner is where I actually need my interfacing for the buttons. And then here is the back of my panel of my waistcoat, and I'm just going to be marking the length at the edge of the front panel and then be cutting out just like normal. And I'm going to be cutting 4 back bodice with the liner and outside fabric just like I did with the front. Now once I have the liner fabric with the darts in, I'm going to sew it down the center, leaving a nice big opening so I can turn this out. And then I'm going to be adding on the side panels with right sides together. So this is my liner fabric, and it has the interfacing where I'm going to add the buttons for the lace up. And I did the exact same thing with the front of my vest, and I'm going to be clipping it all the way around and sewing it all the way around. And then I can turn it inside out or right side out through the opening in the back and then top stitch it all the way around. Now I did top stitch my armhole, as you can see right here, because I could not get the burrito roll to work right with this woven fabric. But once I got done, it's time to be adding on those beautiful gold details. This was definitely worth the splurge. I think it was just so much fun to have a little piece of gold on this actual costume. So I kind of had to play around here like you always have to do. And I spaced out. I decided I wanted 4, and I just spaced them out. And then I marked them with chalk, and then I sat down and I sewed on all of these, all 6 of these. And then we were able to lace them up with ribbon. I know my lines looked a little crooked, but I was trying to avoid my camera. Once I sewed them on, they were perfectly straight, and I used gold thread so you could hardly see how they were sewn on. You can see the starburst fabric and all those beautiful darts, and that is that gorgeous skirt. Here it is on me with showing you the back darts as well as all the details, and look at how it poofs up on the hip. I absolutely love it. And these little steampunk earrings, oh my goodness, this is how the total costume looks, and I have to say I love it. So what do you think about this costume? I have to say it really is very versatile. I feel like if you did brighter colors, you could even make it into a princess costume. There is endless opportunities with this. Now I did show you with my daughter and myself is because I haven't grown since 6th grade. And neither has she. So I don't show my kids' faces, but I did want to show you the full view of this whole costume. And also, I made the dress, but I told my daughter, I'm like, you need to make the jewelry. So the jewelry that we were showing is made by her, and I'm so proud of her. And again, thank you so much for watching. I just appreciate it. You know, this time of year, I know everyone likes to celebrate things a little bit differently, but for us, it's just another time to celebrate being a family. We love doing a community trunk or treat. We also, my daughter loves to do a nonprofit carnival with her friends' family. And so for us, this is just a time for us to celebrate and find a little joy in this fall season. And I hope you can do the same. A like and subscribe would be wonderful. If you can think of any ideas for how to put these patterns together to make even more costumes, please put in the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.